and she understands there's a reason, not because she shoots the ball well. Yes, that also helps. But there's another reason, Scott. There's a reason that says I'm white and it's a privilege and people love me. And I'm okay with that, but I want to also acknowledge everyone else. Why is she being bullied?
Why is that wrong?
Why is she being bullied for acknowledging something that's smart, truth, and factual?
Well, a couple things. Number one, whether you're an athlete or anyone else, if I hear you use the phrase "my truth," I immediately then discount everything else you say, because there isn't my truth or your truth. There's just the truth. And when you start using phrases like that, it tells me that your brain has been captured by something that I don't really respect.
That's not true.
Number two.
That's not true.
Number two, the attention the league got this year was amazing, and it was all because of her. She is an amazing player. The arenas were full when she played in them. The TV ratings were up when she was on television. That's undeniable. But the league still lost like $40 million this year. And it's never made money. And to me, when you're talking about having respecting people who built something, what did they build? A league that loses money every year? She has the capacity.
What do you mean?
What
did they build? What do you mean? What did they build?
What kind of a business did they build?
They've had a business model that has allowed women who have never had a professional sport here in America, in the United States of America, to play. They've kept it alive as opposed to sending them overseas. That's what she's built. That's what they've built.
Courageous Media, welcome in. Happy Monday. We got a great show for you today. The master of the facial expression is back. Scott Jennings is back on, well, he's never left CNN, but he's back with a vengeance. We've got to cover this story. I showed you that clip so that you could get an idea of who Carrie Champion is, in case you don't know. She's nothing. She's not even an ESPN pundit. Some people will say she's an ESPN pundit. She wasn't even that. She was a moderator for the debate show between Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless when it was big. She was the moderator. She sat there and did nothing. So somehow she has flipped that into an ESPN punditry career and has now showed up on CNN, where she routinely, whenever she does show up, gets destroyed by Scott Jennings. Well, he does it again because she has ventured in that particular case right there, she was at least commenting on something that was half sports, half politics. Well, she has now ventured fully into the political realm, and the master of facial expressions is back. We're going to check out that clip. It is bombshell. It's amazing stuff. He just completely destroys her. So we're going to get into this entire situation going on at CNN, where CNN is actually destroying themselves. And when I say that, we're going to check in with one CNN host who I fear might be fired as of today. I think he's ended his career because he actually deigned to tell the truth. He actually went rogue and gave a fair and fairly unbiased, even-handed evaluation of Trump's last 2 weeks in light of his entire in light of the entire first 6 months of his administration. So we're going to check in with that, Smirkish. Then we're going to dive into what's going on in Idaho, as well as new developments in the entire Chinese spying scandal that is rocking the Democrat Party. So welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining. Midway Farms in the house. Hey, Balin. Hey, it's a great thing to do. Welcome in, everybody. Let's dive right into Scott Jennings as he absolutely destroys Carrie Champion as she tries to venture into the political arena. This is great stuff. Here we go. All right. Sorry about that. Here we go.
Jobs, not jobs. A foreign minister from Rwanda has told CNN, he said he's committed to supporting this ongoing negotiation, but warned that ending the conflict will depend on political will and the good faith. And he doesn't know if that is true, referring to the DRC's government. It's not done. It's not done.
You didn't watch the news yesterday. They literally announced it in the Oval Office.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
He's absolutely right. They literally announced it. Here we go.
This is indeed a historical day. Because it's the signing of a peace agreement between Congo and Rwanda to end a conflict that has been going on for 30 years.
Let me ask you a question.
Literally in the Oval
Can I say
Office,
something?
Friday afternoon.
You said something earlier. You said, and you kind of agree with Pete when he says there's something about the media where they feel like they want to disprove Donald Trump. Is that what you said? Something to that effect?
It happens every day.
And you think that's what they want to do, right? You think the
Yes.
media is going in to say he's lying and he's not telling the truth. You
Correct.
believe that?
That is the
wholeheartedly?
standing disposition.
That is, okay, this is so obvious inherently obvious to the casual observer. The entire propaganda media apparatus is absolutely infected with Trump derangement syndrome. They are absolutely infected with Trump hatred. They are absolutely infected with MAGA hatred, America First hatred. They despise everything to do with the movement, with Trump himself, with Trump supporters. And they will go out of their way. And when I say go out of their way, I mean they will spin stories. They will hand select facts. They will absolutely concoct facts and concoct stories out of whole cloth. See the New York Times, in order to try to discredit Trump, discredit MAGA, discredit America First. It's absolutely true. That's why we call them the propaganda news network, because they do not talk about the truth. They don't even talk about any truth. They sell you a story, a narrative. And 90% of the time, it is more than 60% false, absolutely in error. But this is what Carrie Champion's going to try to weigh in on after she just absolutely destroyed whatever shred of credibility, which was basically zero, that she had before. Here we go.
Do you believe that he tells the truth?
Yeah, I do.
Every time?
You think
all presidents do
you
that?
think the
All
president
presidents?
tells the truth? This current president tells the truth often.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. I also think that, to our point that we haven't established, he does announce things before it's too soon.
They literally had the
program is
countries
not
in there.
The program isn't.
I feel like
the
you should
nuclear
watch the
program
news
isn't-
before you come out here.
I feel like you should.
I feel like you should watch the news before you come out here. We showed you the clip. They literally had representatives from the two countries in the Oval Office signing the agreement. Now, Trump did say, and so did Marco Rubio, that there's a few more details to iron out with the actual heads of state. But they had the leaders, they had representatives of the two countries literally sign the agreement. Trump was not late. He was there in person as they did it, as they thanked him for bringing this peace agreement about. This conflict that has been going on for 30 years. And I know this conflict because I flew there in the 90s. I flew what we affectionately in the Air Force called Meals on Wheels in the 90s to Kigali, to Goma, cities that are named in their larger press conference. I've been there. I've seen the effects of the Tutsis and the Hutus massacring each other. Bloodstains on the walls, bullet holes, the airport basically destroyed and abandoned except for the runway that we landed at. It's absolutely nuts. It's been going on that long. And Trump has brought it to an end because Trump cares. Talk about Black Lives Matter. Trump actually cares about Black lives that none of the other Democrats or Black leaders had anything to say about.
You should stop trying to defend him just
Hang
to
on.
defend
I feel like
him.
you should watch
I
the
think you
news.
should stop.
Watch the news. I want to get that part again.
I feel like you should stop trying to defend him just
Hang
to
on.
defend
I feel
like
him.
you should watch
I
the
think you
news.
should stop.
I think you should watch the news. I mean, this is absolutely classic. Now, this comes on the heels of Trump winning over the last 2 weeks. Let's give you a brief synopsis of just some of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. Trump initially weighed in on the entire Israel-Iran conflict nonsense. So you've got Israel, they launch preemptive strikes against Iran. Trump basically says, look, it's Israel, they're doing it. Yeah, we knew about it. And then Trump decides to weigh in and says, wait a minute, Iran cannot do what they really want to do, which is take out the nuclear program. Now, Iran really wanted regime change. Israel really wanted regime change. Israel was all in for that. They were hoping to goad America into a regime change war. And Trump said, hell no. No. But He also realized that Israel cannot do what we want them to do, which is destroy Iran's nuclear program. They do not have the weaponry or the capability to do it. So Trump executes absolutely meticulously to perfection, extremely complex, logistically challenged, high targeted strikes against 3 Iran nuclear sites, and immediately Iran goes to the table. Trump brokers a ceasefire. He gets Israel out of the conflict. He gets America out of the conflict. He gets Iran out of the conflict and reshapes global politics almost overnight. In the same time frame, remember when the media and the left was apoplectic about the Trump tariffs? They're going to destroy the economy. Inflation's going nuts. It's going to be absolute destruction. Look at everybody's 401ks melting down. In the same week, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and the Dow Jones all hit all-time record highs, while inflation was at a near 60-year low, down at 2.4%. Not quite as low as Trump got it in his first term, but other than that, near record lows. So he's got inflation tamed. The market is soaring. Wages are up. Real blue-collar wages are up nearly 4.9%. Trump's economy is beginning to roll. If we could get 2 things done, if we could get the big, beautiful bill passed, as much as there are things in there I don't like, we got to get those tax cuts. We got to get some of the other things done, and then we can go back and fix it over time. Get that done and get Jerome Powell and his TDS nonsense out of the way and get rates coming down. This economy would begin an absolute tidal wave. While that's going on, previously, Trump had brokered a peace deal between India and Pakistan, and now Trump brokers a peace deal between Rwanda and the DRC, essentially between the continuation of the Tutsi-Hutu massacre that's been going on essentially for 30 years, that has now butted up not as a pure civil war, but between 2 warring states. So Trump is winning over and over and over again. And CNN, the deranged liberal lunatics on CNN cannot stand it, with the exception of one. Now, Michael Smirkish was a sports commentator generally, and he got into news. I remember him as more of a sports commentator, where he got his start in Philadelphia. Local Philadelphia radio was Michael Smirkish. Then he kind of he went from sports talk, he morphed into politics. He was a center left, more middle of the road radio host in Philadelphia, and then he got his gig with CNN. Now, to his credit and to his detriment, because his career is probably over, although CNN's been kind of skewing because they let Scott Jennings stay on Abby Phillips' show. But Michael Smirkish had this to say, and I want you to hear it, because this my jaw hit the floor when I saw Michael Smirkish saying this on CNN. Here we go. And while I pull this up, if you could, please, thanks everybody for showing up. Rick in the house. Good Lord gave you another day. Amen. Would you please like, comment, and subscribe? Most importantly, share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. If you like the content, please support us. You can join us as a member on YouTube now. That link should be active on YouTube. You can also hit us with a super or join us on Patreon. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Here we go.
President Trump is having a moment. I'm Michael Smirkish in New York City. The first 5 months of Trump 2.0, they're in the books. I'm not shy about voicing my disagreement here with President Trump. We're doing so on radio. Often, whether it's trade, border control, Iran, I find myself agreeing with the goal, but not the approach. But viewed objectively, I have to say that Donald Trump has just had the best week or best 10 days of his second term. I'm still not sure bombing Iran was warranted, but the mission was carried out with stealth and with precision. There were no American casualties. And while Congress is divided after receiving briefings on the extent of the damage, I'm sure that we've derailed Iran's nuclear program, at least temporarily. And there's some valuable deterrent effect for America's adversaries who witnessed last week's exercise. Of course, Trump's initial imposition of tariffs wreaked havoc on American markets back in the spring. But now the markets have rebounded and grown. The S&P 500, NASDAQ hit record highs just yesterday. And it's not just the stock market. Inflation, the great economic fear of recent times, seems to be tamed. The rate is now reported at 2.4%, down from a high of 7% just 4 years ago. Meanwhile, blue-collar workers have seen real wage growth of 1.7% in Trump's first 5 months. This is the largest such increase in nearly 3 generations. And there's the border. Crossings have slowed to a trickle. According to CBP's May update, Southwest border encounters have fallen to about 282 a day, a drop of 93% from last year and the lowest since the early 1960s. Perhaps the loudest cheering for those border numbers is coming from America's Latino community, which might initially sound counterintuitive. On Thursday, Pew Research released an enormous data analysis of the 2024 election, which contains several surprises. High on that list, President Trump won a bigger percentage of the Latino vote than previously believed. Hillary Clinton had a 38% lead over Trump among Hispanics in 2016. Joe Biden beat Trump in this demo by 25 percentage points. Kamala Harris's margin among these same voters over Trump, just 3 points. Yesterday came a huge decision from the Supreme Court. The High Court declared that federal district judges exceeded their authority when issuing nationwide injunctions against Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. This will, of course, strengthen executive power both for Trump and for his successors. By any objective measure, President Trump has his opponents on the run.
Yes,
President Trump,
he has got them on the run, 100%. Kudos to Michael Smirkish for saying the quiet part out loud on CNN. Michael Smirkish absolutely killing it with a fair, even-handed, fairly unbiased evaluation of Trump's last 10 days. And to his credit, he does not decry Trump the entire way. He gets in his obligatory, I disagree with Trump on many things, and sometimes I agree with the idea, but maybe not the approach. But what he did fairly even-handedly was he talked about the things that are good for America. The border crossings at 228 a day with 0 being released into the country is good for America. Inflation at 2.4% is good for America. Gas prices at a 10-year low is good for America. Wages, blue-collar wages going up 1.7% is good for America. The rest of CNN, the clowns like Abby Phillips and Carrie Champion, would rather America lose so that they could dog Trump. They hate America. They, in fact, hate America so much that they hate Trump so much, they're willing for America to lose so that they can dog Trump. That's how much they hate America. It's absolutely amazing. Now, I want to play 2 more clips along this vein because first things first, Stephen Miller had this correct a long time ago. We're going to get into that. And finally, we're going to finish up with Van Jones basically calling out the same thing that Smirkish did, only he did not do it on CNN. He did it on his TikTok feed, which means he might still have a job. But here we go. Let's check out Stephen Miller saying basically the same thing in his own very Stephen Millerish way.
Well, let's just take a moment to think about how historic this moment is and what President Trump has achieved in this 12-day war. Presidents going back to Bill Clinton have said it is the policy of the U.S. government not to allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon. But under every president except Trump, Iran marched closer and closer to being able to put onto a ballistic missile a nuclear warhead that could take out an entire city. That has been the direction Iran has been going in year after year. President Trump took action flawlessly through the United States military to obliterate Iran's nuclear sites and to stop them through the use of military force from having a nuclear weapon. It was a bold, courageous action, and it happened without a single leak, without a single solitary service member losing their life. Everyone said, who was a critic of this action, that it would lead to World War III, and instead we have a ceasefire, and instead we have the beginnings of a new era of stability and peace and security in the Middle East. President Trump, once again, has demonstrated that he alone has the wisdom, the judgment, the strength, and the courage to see this nation through the most dangerous challenges we face around the world, Sean.
100%.
It is amazing.
And as Stephen Miller said, just drop the bomb. President Trump again determined he alone has the wisdom, guile, judgment, and courage. 100%. Now we're going to get into this Van Jones clip, but this is absolutely amazing stuff. Pamela Bodnovich, absolutely. Thanks for rolling up. You're correct. Smirkish was spitting fire. If he still has a job today, I will be 100% surprised. So check out Van Jones, who is basically saying the same thing on his TikTok feed. This is great stuff from a known communist, Van Jones.
How the hell did Donald Trump figure out the mainstream media is the fringe and the fringe is now the mainstream? How the hell did Donald Trump figure out? I mean, Joe Rogan is obvious, right? Like, we knew the guy had a big audience. It's not like we were like stunned, but like, how the hell was he, the 78-year-old guy who doesn't even have a computer and still like writes handwritten notes? How did he become the guy who cracked the code on, to your point, running a cultural, I don't even want to say campaign, running
it was a movement. Look,
heading a cultural movement versus a campaign.
Every one of your people knows Elon. Listen. Yeah. So everybody keeps, the problem is you have a framework in your mind that how can Donald Trump? Guys, can we cut it out? Donald Trump is not an idiot. Donald Trump, let me just be very clear. Donald Trump is smarter than me, you, and all critics. You know why we know? Because he has the White House, the Senate, the House.
Totally agree.
The popular vote.
And now he's got peace with Iran. Now he's got peace between India and Pakistan. He's got peace between the DRC and Rwanda. He's got low inflation, massively running, booming stock markets. He's got job growth. He's got income growth. He's got the border sealed. Trump is winning. And Van Jones is right. Trump is smarter than all of these clowns. Frankly, CNN, if they were smart, wouldn't fire Smirkish. I don't know that they will, but they shouldn't fire him. They should give him Abby Phillips' spot. Actually, they should give Scott Jennings Abby Phillips' spot. But knowing that they won't do that because Scott Jennings is right wing, they should at least give Smirkish Abby Phillips' spot because she is a complete and utter clown. She is a propagandist hack. She is an activist masquerading as a moderator. She can't even masquerade as a journalist. She can only masquerade as a moderator, and she doesn't even do that well. She is an activist debater on the show. This is absolutely amazing stuff. Trump is killing it. And Smirkish actually had the gall to say so on CNN. We'll see how he fares over the next few days. Now, I want to dive into a different story. Thanks, everybody, for rolling up. Exactly. You busted half nickel swamp if you're over 30 and you're still a liberal. You don't have a brain. D. Carlton, thanks for rolling up. Midway Farms, thanks for being here. All right, guys, I want to dive into another story. And this is, we're going to open this up with a clip that you've probably seen before talking about Kathy Hochul's communist spy staff member, chief of staff, no less. But then we're going to dive in with a tweet from Dan Bongino, Deputy Director of the FBI, which I think is absolutely great to see. Let's go, because this story, I don't think, should go away. Hopefully it will not go away, and hopefully it will end up with lots of chrome bracelets. Let's check this out. In the meantime, please like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Here we go.
I think, when people say diversity and inclusion, I think everybody agrees, or most people generally agree that it's a good thing, right? But I think...
No, I do not agree that it's a good thing. Absolutely not. DEI is a complete and utter train wreck. Diversity for diversity's sake is horrible. Diversity, when it rolls about as a result of a meritocracy, is absolutely fantastic.
Right now, we also need to bring in the word equity, right? Diversity is when you say that there's, many different types of people with different backgrounds, and they're all, invited to the table. Inclusion is when, we include all of their ideas. But equity is when we make sure that all of the people who are at the table have equal access to making sure that their ideas and their thoughts are heard.
Now, equity to you is when you actually give people equal outcomes. But this is the chief of staff who has now been, for Kathy Hochul, who has now been charged, get this, charged with a crime. She has been charged with acting as an undisclosed agent of the People's Republic of China and the Communist Chinese Party. So she's being charged under FARA, which is the Foreign Agent Registration Act. But what I want you to see is this. Here's Bongino's tweet preceding this. The director and I are absolutely committed to cleaning up the plague of public corruption. We are also committed to weeding out CCP scheming and illicit influence in campaigns. Corrupt public officials are on notice. This case is not even the beginning of the beginning. You know who we are, you know who you are, and so do we. And I'll say again, we are absolutely not asking for anyone's trust. We are in the results business, and the trust will come as the results materialize. Bookmark this tweet. You will see. God bless America and those who defend her. Go, Danny Boombots. Go get these people, please. There are so many Chinese communist spies replete within the Democrat Party and within the Rhino wing of the Republican Party. We need to get rid of all of them, and they need to end up in prison along with those who hired them. Now, let's keep diving into this story. So here we got the New York Post article, ex-Hochul and Cuomo. So she worked for both of them. Now, remember that she was a lesser aide for Cuomo. She was not Cuomo's chief of staff. She was Hochul's chief of staff, accused of working as a Chinese foreign agent. She was a Chinese spy embedded in Democrat New York politics. Now, she's not the only one. Remember, there have been Chinese spies tied to a numerous amount of Democrat politicians. Waltz also being one. But don't forget these amazing names that have all been linked to at least one Chinese spy. Swalwell, Judy Chu, Ro Khanna, they were all in bed, literally and figuratively, with Fang Fang. I mean, I cannot believe that these people have been allowed to remain in Congress. They should have been ousted at the first get-go. I mean, frankly, what Johnson ought to do is basically censure and unseat both Swalwell and Ro Khanna, all three of them. If they had Chinese ties to Chinese spies, get rid of them. Force another election in their home districts. Yeah, they'll elect another Democrat, but there has to be real material losses. So this is why I am excited about Dan Bongino absolutely going after these people. I hope he destroys each and every one of them. Find out who's got Chinese spies in their midst, and let's prosecute them. Not only the Chinese spies, but the people who have been giving them information, whether knowingly or unknowingly. They have been disclosing classified information to these people, and there need to be real material losses. Loss of prestige, loss of power, loss of money, and where appropriate, loss of freedom. Rick, I'm with you. Go get him, Danny Boombots. All right. Now, one last story. This is breaking, obviously, as of today. A lot of you have heard about this already. This absolutely evil situation going on in Idaho. Before we dive into the story itself, when I first heard about this, it was this morning. And for those of you who don't know, here's what happened. There was a forest fire outside Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And as of, of course, the firefighters were called in, the first responders, who responded because they were there to protect American lives and American property. They were responding. They were the heroes. They were there as American protectors. What they didn't find was just a forest fire. What they encountered was a forest fire and the face of sheer evil in the midst of it. A monster with a sniper rifle who started opening fire and downed 3 firefighters, 2 of which have lost their lives. The third, I think, still clings to life in the hospital. This is the face of evil. And this is what we are facing in America for a myriad of reasons. Some of them, because we have let people into this country that don't belong here. Others because we have allowed people in our country to be radicalized by the education system, by other groups. But this is an absolutely horrific tragedy, especially for those families of the firefighters who went up that mountain to fight one monster, fire, but they encountered a wholly different monster, a far more evil monster, and they won't be coming home. So I want to dive into this story because already the left is trying to spin this as some right-wing extremist, which is absolutely and completely false. As far as everything that I can see. Now, the story is still unfolding. We don't have a lot of positives, but we are going to talk about we are going to debunk a lot of the negatives that the media has been trying to throw out there. All right, here we go. Let's check out this story first. This video first as we get into this story, which is just, again, a complete and utter tragedy. We are in Coeur d'Alene. Police responders have rolled up. They pulled the firefighters out. And I want to show you, this is the procession because the American Patriots did show up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, thankfully. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is not Portland, Oregon. So here's American Patriots responding to what was going on there.
Live pictures out of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. We have been following developments throughout the day of firefighters being ambushed when responding to a call for a brush fire in a local park there. What you're seeing now, we're told, is a procession coming out of that park. We saw at least one vehicle that appeared to be a hearse. You see people there, of course, waving flags, standing, lining the route there. There had been, we were told a number of hours ago, an active shooter who they believed was on the loose. We do know at this hour that a body was found on the mountain, a firearm found nearby. It is not clear whether that was the suspect. But just to recap of how we got to this moment, that there is now this procession leaving the park, all of these law enforcement vehicles, as you can see. You see the fire trucks there as well. And again, we saw just a short moment ago what appeared to be at least one hearse. A little after 1 o'clock local time, there was a call of a brush fire. Firefighters responded, and then another call came in at 2 o'clock of firefighters reporting that shots had been fired. 2 firefighters we're told were killed. A third, according to a firefighters union, is in the hospital now in surgery. The sheriff, just within the last couple of hours, holding an initial press conference confirming those 2 deaths, saying it was unknown whether there could be other casualties or civilians who could be stuck on the mountain. And at that time, again, just a few hours ago, the sheriff is saying that they were actively taking sniper fire, noting that they were prepared to neutralize the suspect, who appeared to be using, in the words of the sheriff, a modern-day sporting rifle, a high-powered rifle. Not long ago, I spoke with a local reporter who's based out of Spokane, Washington. That's only about 30 miles away, and this is essentially the same media market. She was telling me she's with the spokesman. Okay. And so here I want to show you one more video. This is of the actual procession as it proceeded down the mountain. This is American Patriot stuff right here. This is what the media hates for you to see, because this is Americans coming together. Now, of course, the left-wing media is already trying to spin this as some sort of right-wing extremist. And they're going to do so. They're going to try to do so. The story they're going to tell is, oh, his parents were MAGA. Like that has anything to do with what you are as a child, especially as a teenager. Now, so far, this is the news that we have, is that the shooter has been identified as 20-year-old Wes Rolley, that he was found deceased with the weapon. It is unknown if he took his own life or was neutralized by law enforcement. We don't have that yet. Here's a picture of him. Here's more pictures of him, which you'll notice look distinctly, shall we say, androgynous.
But I do
We
want
had
to get
a
into this
cell
real
phone.
quick video. Now, first responders and police are saying that they believe he set the brush fire. He set it intentionally to get firefighters to roll up so that he could basically take target practice. So it's amazing because he was there to terminate firefighters that had nothing to do with him. You cannot cite, angst with law enforcement as a reason for shooting firefighters. You cannot cite angst with MAGA or Trump or anybody else as an excuse to shoot firefighters. Firefighters who rush into active burning buildings, no matter who is in there. They don't ask, are you Republican or Democrat? Are you left? Are right? Are you pro-Israel or pro-Hamas or any of the other divisions that the propaganda media has foisted upon us as Americans? Firefighters don't ask those questions. They run into the building, they bring people out, and they ask questions later. And frankly, they never ask the questions. It's only us that ask the questions afterwards. They simply put their lives on the line every day in a generally thankless job. And here they get targeted for no other reason than they were American heroes, American patriots, and American protectors. And they were targeted by a nutcase, a 20-year-old kid who, as far as we know, and then what we've seen, spent time in the Soviet Union. It's amazing what little we know. Again, if this was actually a right-wing extremist, realize that they would have his entire Twitter feed, his entire Facebook history, everything would be out there for everyone to see. But we have very little. Why? Because he's kind of a nutcase. What we do know, and I've got some stories here, so let me pull this up. His parents are evidently, from what we can tell, they are Trump supporters. But Rolley had a no contact order with his parents because he threatened them. So he's obviously a nutcase. His parents are publicly MAGA supporters. He was convicted of assault on a woman, received a 6-month jail sentence. He served 30 days, with 150 being suspended. He is not MAGA. He has no ties to MAGA. The questions we probably should be asking ourselves are, was he on medication? What medication was he on? Was he on mind-altering medications such as Prozac or other antidepressants, which are in 99% of mass shooter cases, one of two things or both are present, either father absence or the presence of mind-altering medications, prescription medications, or both. Now, there are some people talking, hey, this sounds like an MK Ultra situation. Read the book Chaos. If you have not already read the book Chaos, please do. It'll open your mind to a whole lot of possibilities of what the government can do and the dark side of some of the elements of the United States government. Most of you who watch my show already know what I think about the elements, the deep state elements of our government, the CIA and others. Rick, this is terrible. It's terrible. Absolutely. So sad for their families. 100%. Pamela, going back to our spy story, if you're stupid enough to sleep with the enemy, you certainly can't judge what's good for America. 100%. But do not be taken in. Do not be fooled. Wes Rolley is not a MAGA Republican. Wes Rolley has no ties that anyone can find to MAGA. What the media are out there purporting as the story is simply a story, and it's a concocted one at that. Yes, his parents are MAGA supporters. What the media will never tell you is that he had a no contact order with his parents. What the media will never tell you is that he did 6 months, he was sentenced to 6 months for assaulting a woman. What the media won't tell you is that he lived in the USSR for a spell. What the media won't tell you and show you are the pictures of him that look distinctly like he might be undergoing some level of transition, gender transition. Whether he's not or not, I have no idea. But the pictures tell a different story. So it's just amazing because the media is out there peddling a story, not the story. So don't get taken in by him. When people try to tell you some ridiculous lie, don't don't buy into it. And again, I do want to. So here's the report. Wes Rolley, 20-year-old suspect born in the Soviet Union, previously residing in New York and Florida, is linked to an attack on firefighters and first responders. So some of this stuff is unconfirmed. Exactly. Was he born in the Soviet Union? And how he came to be in America and so forth. But I wanted you to see this. This is just crazy, crazy stuff. But I did want to show one video because, again, this goes back to if they really, really, really had evidence that he was MAGA, we would already have every single thing about him. Check this out.
Firefighters who were shot and killed Sunday while responding to a fire in Idaho. CNN's Veronica Miracle joins us. You have some new information about the shooter, right?
That's exactly right, Pam. We now know that the shooter has been identified as 20-year-old Wes Rolley. That's according to a law enforcement source who spoke to our CNN's Mark Morales. Now, beyond that information, beyond his age and his name, we don't know exactly what his motivations were. That is still under investigation. But investigators say that he started a fire intentionally and lured firefighters in and began shooting at them. He was blended into the mountains, so they didn't know if there were multiple shooters.
The reason they have no other information is because they have no information that fits their narrative. If he was actually a MAGA supporter, they would have his entire social media history. They would have a manifesto. They would have every contact he had ever made with any person, living or dead, within the last 10 years. They would have it all spread all over the news. No, the reason they have no other information is because they can't find any information that supports he's a right-wing extremist narrative. And probably what they do have supports that he is either a left-wing extremist or he's been plagued by all the other problems that mass shooters have been plagued with. So one of those two things is true. What is absolutely not true, based on the fact that they have no information, is that he's a right-wing extremist. So just take that to the bank. I don't know anything else other than what I know, what we all don't know, and that is that he's not a right-wing extremist. So just bookmark this. I think you'll find in the future that he was either left-wing or that he was potentially, one of these people that was wound up and set loose with prescription medication and mind control and other things. But there were other stories earlier in the day talking about potential other people involved. One of them ostensibly a member of the IRGC. Those stories have disappeared, so I don't know if they were just people floating them out on social media, if there was ever actually any truth to them. But we will continue to monitor this story. I told you what I know. I will not speculate beyond that. But thanks everybody for rolling up. Really appreciate everybody being here. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you really like the channel, share with everybody that you know. Share Courageous Media. Also, join us as a member of the Courageous Army on YouTube or on Patreon. Thanks so much for rolling up. Really appreciate you being here. Remember, God is good and he is sovereign. It'll all be good in the end. Till I catch you next time.